This is a presentation about bullying, what bullying is, what the impact of bullying is, and what teachers and other adults can do about bullying. So, to begin with, I think we're just going to look at what exactly is bullying. And bullying is defined as basically repeated aggressive behavior. So, bullying is experienced by quite a different number of people and in different environments or different areas of life. And bullying can happen, I think it mostly happens in schools or the classroom, but also taking into consideration, during school travel or when children are traveling to and from school in their neighborhoods. It can also happen amongst adults, at work. It can also happen when kids are playing in a team or adults working in a team. It can also actually occur at home or in home environments where bullying can also take place. Behaviors that are considered as bullying or fall under behaviors for bullying are name calling, making other people feel bad about themselves, hitting or physically harming or assaulting other people, taking other people's things without permission, um, making threats or being intimidating towards others, and also damaging of other people's belongings. These behaviors, as I've said, normally occur between children and happen in schools. However, it can also happen between adults, and it can also happen between an adult and a child, so parents and a child, or a teacher and a child. Regardless of what the situation is or what the bullying behavior is, it should always get reported and dealt with. How to identify bullies or how to identify bullying behavior. Um, Bullying can actually happen in different areas, um, but I think it mostly happens in places where the bully knows that no one else is going to be able to see. So bullying doesn't really like audiences, but not to say that it doesn't happen with an audience, but it does happen in places where the victim won't have anywhere to run to, won't have anyone to call out to. Um, in a school setting, it mostly happens when there is no adult supervision or there are no teachers supervising, and then the bully will see that as an opportunity to then victimize the victim. The bullying behavior, it can come as very direct behavior. So this is behaviors that are easy to see or behaviors that are easy to pick up on. Behaviors such as teasing, hitting, threatening, causing destruction of property, or forcing somebody to do something against their will. These behaviors are visible. They're things that you can actually witness and see them happening. But bullying can also be quite indirect or not as visible. It can be something such as spreading rumors, excluding another child or excluding another person, manipulation of other people, or manipulation of another child. Um, Bullying really involves a real or perceived power imbalance between the person who is, the bully and their target. So you can normally observe this by seeing the power difference between the two individuals or a group of individuals. How else to identify bullies? I think bullies are, normally aggressive and get into fights often, but it's not to say that this is something that you'll definitely find in bullies, because some bullies don't work like that. They like to keep things a bit more quiet. They don't really like everyone else knowing that they do these sort of behaviors, so they're not going to be in your face about it. And then you're going to find also that, when you do speak to bullies or you do confront them, they normally can't take any ownership into their actions. They're always going to have someone else to blame or have fingers to point at other people instead of taking ownership of the behavior. So there's four types of bullying. Um, for the first one being, I think, the most visible type of bullying, which is the physical bullying. This is basically any, bumping, scratching, hitting, tripping, biting. So any um, type of bullying that can cause physical harm or can hurt a person physically. Then you get emotional or social bullying, which is the gossiping, people revealing personal information about someone else, manipulation. So not not exactly causing physical harm, but mostly causing a person emotional distress or psychological, um, harm or distress. Then you get verbal bullying, which is more just name calling, making negative comments, intimidating people, threatening them. And then the last form is cyberbullying, which happens online or on social media platforms where people are then doing the name calling and writing inappropriate things about someone else, but more on a internet-based platform or a social media platform where other people can also see or witness the bullying. But sometimes it can also happen in platforms where other people, might not be seeing it because it can happen that a person can post about someone else, but then a person can also just message somebody, saying very nasty things towards them or displaying bullying behavior towards them. So now we're going to look at the effects and the consequences of bullying. Some of the effects of bullying, or things that you can notice as a result of bullying, is a child faking illness just to avoid going to school, or making up certain things to avoid going to school. A child developing a low self-esteem, a child experiencing social isolation and not really wanting to interact with other people, a child or a person having unexplained bruises and injuries. And then some of the effects of cyberbullying can be a person becoming upset every time they've, been online or they were on their phone, or they seem like they're under some form of distress after using the phone. Um, and then maybe a person being secretive or not really wanting to share about, what it is that they have been doing online or they are doing online. So bullying can have a really negative effect on the person experiencing the bullying. Children can experience depression, emotional problems, just because they are being bullied. They can also start not performing well at school. Or the child starts displaying bullying behaviors themselves. Breaking rules, or having social behavior patterns that are not so normal anymore. So these could be the effects or the consequences that are going to come about after a child is bullied. The most important thing with regards to what to do about bullying, I think the most important thing is to react, to actually do something about it, not just hear about it or witness it and then not do anything about it. A child who is being bullied, they need to be supported, and they need to know that, the bullying behavior, it have like it's not their fault that they found themselves being bullied, and that they need to be able to speak about it, or they need to be able to report on it if it happens. Um, as a teacher, or adult, or parent, um, should speak about the bullying with the child who has experienced the bullying, just to find out more information as to what exactly happened, what the extent of the bullying is, and how long it's been going on for, and what behaviors are involved, and what individuals are, um, you know, performing or doing the bullying. If it's an incident that has happened at school, then as a parent, you should always encourage and go with your child to report it to the school. The school should have some form of policy on bullying, or on behaviors that are not allowed, and this policy can then help, or the school counselor, school principal can then help in guiding as to what steps can be taken, to try stop the bullying and to also support the children who have been bullied. If the bullying isn't happening at school, it happens outside of school, that the adults that are involved should get assistance in managing the situation. They can contact the victim's parents, they can contact the bully's parents. The matter should be reported, and help can always, you know, can always be found also in like a family therapist, or community social worker, or the police department, depending on what the event was and what the extent of it was. But it should be reported, and it should, somebody should be accountable of it, and it should be um, brought about and spoken about and actually sorted out before just leaving it or not really paying attention to it. Something has to be done about it. Lastly, I think adults, teachers can also help children who are getting bullied by just, educating children in general about behaviors and what behaviors are acceptable and what behaviors are not acceptable. I think schools should have, days in which they do address bullying and, try educate the kids on how to identify this behavior, how to identify yourself as a bully as well, if it is something that you're dealing with. And then what to do as a child if you are bullied, what to do, what steps to take, and how to better protect yourself, or how to stand up for yourself, or how to cope better in situations. Not that the people who are being bullied shouldn't report it or shouldn't stand up against it. They definitely should, but they also need to learn how to cope and how to survive, so that they can understand that it's not their fault that they are experiencing such a thing, and that they can get find their confidence afterwards, or they can find their voice, they can find they can find to be more assertive, even if they have experienced being bullied before. If you are, as an adult, have been informed about bullying, or you've witnessed a child being bullied, there are certain things that you can tell a child in order for them to know what to do if they are being bullied. It's more like giving them advice just on how to try and avoid it, and also on what to do about it if it does happen. So children should always report or talk to someone about the bullying. They can talk to a friend, a parent, or any other family member. If it happens at school, then the child should be able to speak to the teacher, the principal, school counselor, or maybe another mate in class. So other advice that you can give children is that they must try stay in safe areas during school breaks, and they should try sit with a lot of other people, or sit where there are a lot of other people, because bullies tend to work, or you know bully in where there's not a lot of people, to try and not get into trouble for it. In terms of what the child can do on their way to school, they can, sit near the bus driver if it's in a bus, or near an adult. If they are walking, they can try to change their route, or try to, delay their routine. So either, going home or going to school a bit later or a bit earlier, or they can walk with other people who live in the same area. If the child has a cell phone, then they should always be careful as to who they give their numbers to. And also, if the child is experiencing or getting any phone calls that they don't know, or threatening phone calls or emails, then they should tell parents about it. If the child sees anyone else being bullied, then they should tell someone about it. They should also do something about it. As if a child is able to gain assertiveness to speak about their bullying, they can be a voice for other children being bullied as well. Bullies are, normally people who they become bullies for a different number of reasons, I guess. And one of them is, a person wanting to seek for power, validation from others by putting other people down. It can be people with low self-esteem, and so people who are wanting to make others feel bad about themselves because they already feel bad about themselves. It can be people who are struggling with certain, difficulties in their own lives, and so they end up not considering, how their actions or words might end up hurting someone else. So it's somebody who's maybe preoccupied in their own struggles, and so they start putting other people through struggles because they're experiencing something similar. It can, also be people who are experiencing some form of bullying in their lives, whether at home or maybe a teacher or other children are bullying them, and so they react to that by also inflicting the same behavior on others. Bullies also need support in scenarios where there is a bully and a victim. As much as the victim needs support and they need help with regards to processing the what they've just experienced, because it can be quite traumatic also for the person being bullied. However, if a person is displaying such behavior, it means that they themselves need some form of help as well. That they themselves maybe are trying to communicate some form of discomfort or distress in their own lives through the bullying behavior. So bullies, they should also be offered some form of support. The adults around them need to think about why the child might have that sort of behavior. The child has to be spoken to around the behavior that they are you know displaying. The children who are bullies, they need to be able to reflect on it and be able to feel remorse for it, to know that it was a bad thing. So they need to be asked questions, or they need to be encouraged to ask themselves, what made them start the bullying. Okay? Why do they feel like they have to pick on other people? And how does it make them feel when they are bullying another person? Because the answer to those questions might be the solution to the problem of the child displaying those behaviors. If they can answer these questions, then you can start helping them, overcome these things or understanding themselves better in order to stop the behavior.